Coaches, what's going on? It's Coach Ian Tatum here, back with another Kind of Culture podcast. Here with my co-host Coach Rapidink. Everybody knows him, and everybody should know Coach Austin Trotter coming on, hang out with us as a co-host as well. Guys, it's almost February. I mean, where did January go? I mean, it's been crazy. But how y'all been, man?
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I've been good. Staying busy a little bit. A lot of birthdays in the family for us this month, so we've been kind of bouncing around back and forth and trying to get all that stuff in, and just working on some off-season plans and kind of seeing what happens.
Hey, Rap.
Same. Kind of, enjoying a little off time. We started last week with the quarterback school stuff, so that's been going good. Getting with those guys and starting to talk about the offense and all that. Been enjoying that. So looking forward to keeping that going through probably, I guess, till we start spring ball, and then really as needed after that. So, but it's been fun kind of getting back into football stuff, talking about stuff that we're going to do a little different on offense and things like that. So, it's been a fun couple weeks since the last episode.
I hear you. And I gotta put my stuff up because I'm all over the place. Where are my overlays? This is live TV. There we go. Boom. So there it is. But yeah, man. We had the clinic last week. It was absolutely fantastic. I know y'all stopped by and y'all watched. Been absolutely bombarded. People are still watching it. People still saying how good it was. I thought it was pretty good. So blessed for that. And now I'm kind of like, I told everybody, now that's over, I'm kind of like, what do I do with my hands? Because I'm kind of like, I don't have copy and pasting to do. So, but yeah, man, we start, weightlifting after school, and I'll start my OL one-on-one pretty darn soon, and getting after that, really, really excited about it. Trotter, what about how's things going off season for you, man? Kind of getting
we started weight training a couple weeks ago after school, 2-3 days a week, just kind of depending on schedule and what we have with other sports going on. So we've been doing that. Kind of working on our plans for the fall and who we have coming back, and doing all that stuff, taking names off the depth chart and sliding guys around and seeing where they're going to fit best, and meeting with schools as they come in, and trying to get our guys' names out there as best we can, and jumpstart some recruiting for some guys. But yeah, it's been a good few weeks. Clinic last week was awesome, like you said. I mean, I tried to sit most of the day when I could, and a lot of great speakers, and so it's been a good couple weeks.
Yeah, I always think it's kind of bittersweet, kind of talking about what you just mentioned, like you said, taking guys off the depth chart, moving some guys around, because you're obviously like, that guy's gone now, and guys they were so good, or like I'm going to miss them. But then I also find it kind of like it's kind of like chess, kind of like a strategy of, okay, so now before we get into actually we're going to put together a team again, where do I think guys can play? And I think you sent the picture of the OL, your OL. I did the same thing. I did it on Excel, and I think I love doing that stuff and kind of seeing, hey, where could this guy fit? Based off of what he did last year, or what do we want to try and mold him into through the off season and kind of teach him, what to do, and I think I love the strategy behind that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that too, I think, is when you're sitting there kind of going through those names, it's it kind of leads, okay, can we still do the same things we did last year, or do we need to, change our scheme up? Do we not have certain guys, or the guys that are coming up, or is there a skill set there that we can take advantage of in a different way? So it's a fun time of the year for me, just from a strategy, scheming stuff. That's what I love to do. Mm-hmm. So it's an opportunity to kind of really start getting those thoughts going and trying to figure out what we're going to do the next season.
Yeah, I think, for us also, even when you're not really thinking about football, you're still thinking about it, how to put your kids in the best position possible, all that stuff. And to your point, Trotter, I enjoy this time of year too, because of, we've talked a lot about like clinic season and all that stuff on here, but the starting to see the things kind of come together right? Once you start to realize, okay, these are what the kids I have coming, or this is what the kids I have coming back do well, and then blending, maybe it's a whole completely different scheme, or blending your scheme that you've run in the past to fit those kids a little bit better. It's always a lot of fun for me, kind of looking through all that stuff and going into, playbooks that we've had in the past, and trying to find the guy who's going to play quarterback, trying to find a guy who, for us, like a bunch of our skill positions are gone. So, looking at like the tape of kids that we've had that are returning, and seeing, who's going to be the guy in space and all that stuff. So, it's definitely a fun time. That's for sure. It's always a good challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's always funny. 'Cause I know Rap, you're losing a quarterback. And so even other places I've been where you maybe had a passer and you're going to maybe more of an athlete, or you had more of an athlete and hey, I got a passer now. So you're not really changing the whole offense up, but you're kind of like, hey, we can add this right here, add this right here. So I guess where does that balance come in where you're like, hey, we might have to change kind of what it looks like. Still call it the same thing, still use the same system, but now we're just changing up some tweaks.
For me, really, we're going to be a lot different. To your point, I think 2 out of the 3 kids that could potentially play quarterback are more athletic, run well. We can do more in the quarterback run game. And honestly, like, we kind of forced the kid that we had the last 2 years into doing the quarterback run game stuff as a way to get numbers, basically, not necessarily because we're expecting them to go for 60 or anything like that. But it'll be better, in my opinion, being able to incorporate quarterback run game more frequently into what we do. It's kind of like the old middle school thing where, like, you just put your best athlete back there and let them do his thing. Obviously not to that extreme, but in the sense of being able to, you may call a bad play and he just pulls the ball down and runs for 40. Like, I like that kind of stuff. I could take that. So that part of it, I kind of expect to be able to happen a little bit more. I think I've been really adamant about how good of a job our kid did the last couple of years, but it's interesting, especially as an O-line guy, to be able to have that kind of quarterback run game being more of a staple in what we do. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Troy, in our video we did, you kind of detailed the different quarterbacks you've had, and they've kind of all been different, even to the guy you have now. So how do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've had 4 quarterbacks in 6 years here, and all of them are different in the sense of their strengths and weaknesses and what they bring to the table. I mean, for me, honestly, and I know this, we're O-line guys, but it's kind of cliche for us to say this, but it starts up front for me. Mm-hmm. I got to figure out what we can do, and then it goes to quarterback, and then we build it out from there. So, yeah, I mean, 1 year, well, really 3 years, I had a free safety playing quarterback, good athlete. 1 year, I had a 6'2", 220 kid that ran a 4.6 and had a cannon for an arm, and brings a different dimension to it. This past year we had a pocket passer that could throw the ball well, could make pretty much any throw that I asked him to make. Was a young kid, and there's some growing pains obviously when you got somebody that's young in that position as well, who doesn't have a lot of experience. And to make things worse, kind of for that, we had a young offensive line, and we were kind of didn't have a true running back. Had a couple guys that were playing it for us and trying their hardest, but that wasn't their natural position. So it made it a little bit more difficult for us at times, but we got a lot of good experience with it, and that quarterback is actually picked up an FBS offer the other week, and is probably going to have some more coming his way when he gets a chance to get out to some camps and stuff and can showcase what he can do. But I mean, we have to start up front and then transition into what our quarterback can do. So there are years where, yeah, I'd love to have quarterback run game that didn't fit his strengths.
Yeah.
So we had to find ways to be able to accomplish the same thing that brings us without him being able to want to do it. But also being able to maybe take advantage of the fact that he did have probably a better arm than any of the other three quarterbacks that I've had here. So, it's a balancing act of, hey, we can't do this year, but now we can do this. How do we blend that together to try to make the best thing work?
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead. You got something, Rep?
No, I was just about to say that's always an interesting piece too, is like, obviously we plan, right? We have thoughts about what we think can happen, but then once we start seeing it, obviously you got to adjust even after that. So to me, it's like one of the cool things about coaching high school football is, you know what to expect to an extent, but you really don't in a lot of cases. So, the biggest thing for me that I look for quarterback wise is like, can they command the other 10 players on the field? And I'm not saying like jump down their throat and yell and scream and stuff like that, but I want a kid that when they speak, everything stops and the team listens. Mm-hmm. So, did we have that with the last kid? Last year, I would say yes. The years before that, no. But that was something that for me, I really worry about the most, because I've seen kids who have potential to be really, really good quarterbacks, and the offense just doesn't trust them.
Yeah.
And you're fighting that battle to get them to believe in the kid, obviously while trying to put the whole team in the best position to be successful. So, for me, we can find ways to make things work, whether it be they're not very athletic or they don't throw the ball down the field well, or, whatever the case is. But and obviously talent helps with that, but if you're in a situation where, the kids are making fun of the quarterback or whatever, I look at a lot of that stuff and I'm like, well, do they respect him? Is he a leader? Not necessarily a vocal leader, but at least to the extent where the kids, understand that, for lack of a better way to say it, he's kind of in charge.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be out there on Friday nights. If he throws a bad ball and they're coming off the field and all the kids are, cussing and yelling at him or whatever the case is, like, to me, that creates more of an issue than if we have a kid who may not throw the ball that well, but can do other things that can help you be successful with your scheme. So I think with that position, the reason why I harp on it so much, obviously, now that I'm coaching quarterbacks, is, I want our kid, whoever it is, every year to feel like they've just been given the keys to a Ferrari and, basically just don't mess it up. Don't crash it. That's it.
Yeah.
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 So
okay. Well, guys, that was a good cold start to the podcast. We're gonna make sure everybody's signing in. Coach Shelton, appreciate you, big dog.
Appreciate you.
Coach Tumbleson. Oh, that's what your name is, Coach. Sorry, Coach T. And then Coach Troy Taylor, appreciate you, big dog. Appreciate you joining us and hanging out. Sign in for us. But yeah, so kind of got different ways we can go with this pod. Having Trotter on here. And maybe, since I know he's listening, maybe having Mitch come on eventually. We'll see. So then let's kind of talk about a couple of things, and we'll kind of talk about this. It's the off-season kind of things are rolling. People taking new jobs, people, whether it be head coach, coordinator, assistant coaches. We've all taken new jobs before. Let's talk about it from let's take it from a head coaching spot, and then we'll kind of work it down. Let's talk about. Hold on, Harry just got it hung. They're getting a Pinto, and I'm going to be fine with that. No Ferrari. Hey, man, that Pinto's going to ride until the wheels fall off. So,
right, whatever it takes.
100%. Let's kind of talk. I'll sit this one out, obviously, but let's kind of talk. Maybe as a head coach taking over a program, what's kind of some things that you kind of maybe need to do, or you're kind of looking to do, maybe not as admin type of things. Like, obviously you got, equipment and all that stuff. More with the kids, and then scheme. What are some of those things you're kind of looking to do coming into off season?
Go ahead, Coach.
So I'll say, I was in that situation 6 years ago, and I think if it's, an established program, get into huddle and start watching as much film as you possibly can on your guys to kind of get an idea of what their skill sets are. That's you've got to learn what they can do, and maybe identify some things that they struggle with. If it's a brand new program, then you're going in blind because you've got to build that thing from scratch. So it's a little bit tougher situation. But like when I came into where I'm at now, that was the first thing I did. As soon as I got the job, I was like, hey, I need to be added to huddle. And I spent a lot of time diving in, trying to see, what guys we had coming back. And there was a good bit of turnover when I took over. So, it was trying to figure out. I mean, we moved a bunch of pieces around. Like our starting running back, my first year, played left guard the 3 years prior. He was 5'11", 215. And their scheme, they liked him there for what we needed to do. We slid him back to running back, and he did great at it. He was a middle linebacker for us too. So I think early on, the first thing you got to do is identify the ones that are coming back, the guys that are going to be either they were starters before or played a lot of minutes, are going to be sliding in those positions, and start identifying their skill set. Don't go in with, hey, because I made this mistake. I'm running this scheme, and this is what I sold myself on in the interview, in the interviews, and I'm said we're going to be this and we're going to be that before ever identifying truly what they can be. So, and then that's where you kind of know. Look, I know some guys are comfortable running certain schemes and other things, but you still got to be flexible enough to, at the high school level, definitely. The smaller the school that you go to, you got to be a whole lot more flexible because you got a lot less bodies to work with, and you got to slot in places that maybe I don't want to play a 175-pound kid at guard, but I have to because I don't have anybody else. Well, how do we protect him but allow him to still be able to play? So there's a lot that's going to go into it. But I think the first thing that you have to do is just deep dive your team, scout them like you're scouting an opponent, and figure out what they do well.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree. I think, only really other thing I can think of, I think starting to build a relationship with kids, especially like when I was in Virginia, kids come and go a lot more up there as compared to where I am now. So, some of the situation is trying to make sure that the kids understand you, what your vision for the program is, and hopefully the ones that are all in stay and the ones that aren't go. But at the same time, I think the relationship piece is a big part of it, as part of learning what your kids do well, kind of blending your scheme to show what they do well. And then starting to try and get time with the kids to be able to start teaching them some of the stuff, even if it's just on the board instead of, being on the field and stuff like that. And being at a smaller school, we don't really get a lot of that time because our kids are running track, they're playing baseball, they're playing basketball, all that stuff. So really the only time I have right now is during lunches. I got the lunch period off this semester, so every lunch that we have during third period, the kids are coming down, and we're we've talked about before, we're changing some of the stuff that we do offensively, so the group gets bigger and bigger every time we do it, which I'm perfectly fine with. So that part of it is a lot of fun, starting to teach them what you're trying to do scheme wise, but also start talking about the culture of the program, what you're trying to build, how you want everything to go and all that. The earlier you can start all that stuff, in my opinion, the better off you're going to be, because it's like speaking another language, especially I feel like 90% of the time you're running something that isn't the same as what was happening before. Like they were gun triple at Perquimans before I got here, which I love, but it was a little funky how they did it. And, you know, we wound up kind of changing everything and asking some of the kids like how they called plays before we got here and stuff like that was always kind of funny to me because it's just very different. So trying to get like the word association piece of it and all that, I think is big the earlier that you can start working with all that stuff. And, you know, especially for me here when I got here and, you know, our quarterback was a sophomore and, you know, we tried to kind of teach him how to be a quarterback, honestly, you know, how to carry himself and all that stuff. So, you know, I think all that stuff is just as important as any play you call on Friday night or whatever the case is.
I'm gonna get these comments real quick. That's my dude, Coach Douglas, is our defensive coordinator. But yeah, our linebacker just got an offer from Liberty, so it's official. They called him, so that's awesome. He better tag me and tell you that. Anyway, but let's see, Coach Johnson, hell yeah, I'm trying to pirate it up with a 5'8" quarterback that hasn't played quarterback yet. Yeah. Guys that ain't played quarterback and they're 5'8", that's not usually recipes for success. And then Coach Jarvis, what's going on, big dog? Appreciate you joining and hanging out. So once you kind of evaluate the team and then you want to kind of install some stuff, you know, everybody's got the things that they love, you know, and you kind of want to install the plays, you know, I'm a gap scheme guy, I'm a zone guy, you know, whether it be, you know, you're a whatever, you know, passing game you want to do, you know, air raid or run and shoot or West Coast or any of that stuff. Kind of how do you evaluate? Is it maybe the experience of the kids, you know, and how much is too much? And I know we talked before, but it's a new off season. It's like how much is too much and how much you kind of start with, especially if like installs through the winter time through lifting and stuff like that. Just wrap what you got.
My thought process with that is, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. We install a lot at the beginning. And reason being, and I guess what I mean by a lot is like tags off of our run game stuff. And my thought process is when I do that, I give them everything and then we don't carry everything in week to week. So we may play a team that we like one RPO and it goes from us having to teach that from the beginning to, hey, do y'all remember when we ran this, you know, at the beginning of the summer when we first installed, you know, whatever the scheme was. And in my opinion, it makes that like putting it back in for that week a little bit faster. So I would rather give them more at the beginning. That's how we've done it. And really part of the reason why we do it is when we start installing stuff, one of the things I saw it on Twitter a while ago, I think Florida State did it like that. The way that they install everything, they have it on the board, they, you know, draw it up, they watch film, walk through, run through, all that. So we kind of started doing that with stuff that we've run obviously previously. And while I'm drawing everything up or our O-line coach is drawing it up with the O-line, we give all the kids a notebook and a pen and they're drawing their own playbook. So part of it is because of that, so they can go back and look at it and they have everything. And that way we can kind of figure out what we do well and then be able to use that stuff from week to week as we need it.
Yeah. What you got, Coach?
Yeah, I'm gonna say for us, I mean, summer's a lot is a ton of install, but it's also I'm throwing a lot of different things at them so I can try to see what we're doing and what we're able to do. And then there'll be bits and pieces that, you know, we may not do it, but just a couple times during the summer. And then as we start getting into camp and preseason stuff, then I'll pull that stuff back out. But, you know, for me, summer's a lot of trial and error. where I'm at, we have a lot of turnover, and a lot of guys are leaving and going places. So, we have to kind of be flexible as far as what we can do well. And I want to see what those guys can do during the summer. So,
yeah. I think for me, at least I'll say, let me install, like, it also depends on how much can you kids do. Because when I was in Virginia Beach, that next off season, before I had left, right before COVID hit, like our guys, it was kind of crazy how low of IQ our guys had, football wise. So it was straight up like football school, and it was after school, and we straight up like went in there. We just learned like what is a line of scrimmage, like what is this, what is that, and I think it really helped kind of teach. Before I finish that point, what's going on?
Wow! Out here cleaning the kitchen, brother.
Hey, man.
Doing that happy wife, happy life. You know what I mean?
Hey, man. Hey, nobody mad at you.
Not at all. Not at all.
Dude, Tatum, I love what you just said. Like, because that's what we're doing during Smart Lunch for us is, teaching them the hashes, teaching them, what the different penalties are, teaching the top of the numbers, bottom of the numbers, like football IQ, and just trying to teach them the game. Because I was listening to Bixby's offense coordinator Tyler Schneider on the Kenny Simpson, and it's something that like really hit me with that was it doesn't matter what we know with like the concept and the scheme and the wrinkles and all that. If they don't have the skills and don't understand how to develop and what it takes to be good at that, then no play will ever work. And I was like, dang. I was like, so it doesn't even more of like, it doesn't matter what we know, it's what they can execute. I didn't even think about that as like, if they can't even develop or understand the skill development, then like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So that hit me of like having to really break down things for the kids these days are definitely the way to be successful is the more you can dumb it down and be able to build it like Rap was saying. That's the only way to be successful. You can't just throw it out there anymore. You can't just go on the field and walk through it. It's got to be on that whiteboard. It's got a video. They got to know the why, the how, all of that.
Yeah. That's a great point. With Rap, I guess we didn't get the memo about the Army shirts. I mean,
I was about to say that.
Oh man,
who's got it?
Carter's got one on too. Well, I guess it's down here now. Sorry.
It's over. Yeah.
Wherever. I don't know if it's the same on everybody's screen as it is mine.
Yeah. The Brady Bunch on here right now.
I love it. Yeah, that's one of the things for us that's been big is like teaching them the game, not scheme necessarily, because the whole, and honestly, the years we've been able to kind of help build it back up again. But when I left in 2017 and came back in whatever year that was, a lot of those kids, like we didn't have a very defined and like well-built rec department program. So some of the kids didn't even play football until they were in middle school. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know what they were teaching or how they were teaching stuff in middle school. So, we kind of got to the point where we're just like, okay, well, we're going to take the approach that we have to teach them like everything. Mm-hmm. And, obviously we haven't had to with every kid but at the same time, I would much rather have to go through it than hope that they understand it and then they don't. And it just keeps building and, we're adding tags or whatever the case is, and they don't understand the base knowledge of football, for lack of a better way to say it.
I mean, that reminds me back to like my first year at Lake Norman when we started that program. There really wasn't a youth football program in the area. And we always would laugh, like, we got to write this down in the book because, it was one day we were talking about telling the quarterback to throw it to the back pylon. He turned around and asked, what's the pylon? And then, we had another one where we were going over, field goal, bad snap, you'll fire, everybody does it, right? And one of the kids came back and asked, how many points is that worth? Is that still only 3 because we lined up it as a field goal? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, and at that point I was like, okay, we really need to remember that a lot of these kids don't know football. And that was 22, 23 years ago. And I think now there's even less knowledge coming up because a lot of them aren't playing it. They're not out I mean, we joke about this a lot of times too. It's like when we were all coming up, everybody could throw a football, everybody could throw a baseball, everybody could catch, everybody could do this stuff because that's what we did. Now, that's not happening, so there's a lot of like basic fundamental skills that aren't being taught and learned at younger ages that we're now having to teach once they get to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a middle school program. Like nobody in Forsyth County has a middle school feeder football program. It's all youth, and I got love for youth coaches. So I don't want anybody to come at me, but at the end of the day, for the most part, everybody knows what youth football is, and it's get the ball to the fastest guy and let him run side to side. Not as much structure as you'd ever want. So yeah, on top of not having a high football IQ or knowing things that you would assume, first rule of football, don't assume. So then you also have to like teach them a stance, teach them, what is some basic terminology. I'm not talking about, your terminology. I'm talking about just some basic things that you think some guys, that kids would know with football. And so you have to kind of do that. And that's kind of what my OL 101 this offseason is, because when I don't have freshmen coming in, but I might have a kid that wants to play that hasn't played with us. Well, the last time he played probably was youth or never. So that's where I kind of do that stuff. And it's a refresher for my older guys.
Right.
And it kind of allows my older guys a little bit of little leadership opportunity for that as well. Because at the end of the day, I get tired of explaining what a down block is.
Right.
So my older guys usually kind of take that on, but I spend that time doing that, and then we can get into how we block power and counter, and hand placement and your steps and footwork and stuff like that. So yeah, and I love that stuff. So I can't wait to get it started into February. So 100%.
I'm trying to find this. It's basically like a field diagram that I made that I started giving to kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep looking as we're talking, but I started giving it to quarterbacks a couple years ago. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
There's one I sent to Trip. Here it is, the SMU put out that I screenshotted. That's really good.
Somebody on Twitter a while back that was making them, and you could have them that put it with your school stuff and everything on it.
Yeah.
Well, dang, I wish I would have known that. I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, because honestly, as a young coach, I didn't know like some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to coach football.
Right.
And you would think, oh, you really don't. I'm gonna pull it up. Let's see. But it's just terminology that you try to go out there and do. And a lot of people, they're like, well, if the kids don't know it, blah, blah, blah. Well, shoot, I didn't. So it'll be okay. Let's see. Download.
I just can't remember what I called the thing. It's my biggest issue.
I do that all the time. All right. There we go. Share. There we go. Y'all can see that? Cool.
Same exact thing.
Yeah.
Daggone, I would have just stole that.
Yeah. So it's got your back pylon, front pylon, numbers, top, bottom. And then it has the dimensions. I love the dimensions. The 53 and a third and so on and so forth. Field and boundary. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, I had that. And I think Tripp's gonna go through this with the quarterbacks and the receivers and stuff as well this off season. So that'll be really, really good to have. I know a lot of like college playbooks that you get like on these drives and stuff that you kind of subscribe to, they kind of start with this.
Yeah.
And we kind of take that for granted in high school. It's like because we're all lined up, bottom of the numbers, and they're like, I know the numbers over there, I guess. So they just go over there and they don't know, or hash to hash, or even running gassers, guys. Like we're running, we're hashing back, or we're gonna go across the field and back, and then or we're doing like suicide and tell them landmarks in the field, and they're kind of like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go here, go there. So yeah, coaching is more than just X's and O's for sure.
Fact.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was. Anyway, same kind of concept, but
yeah,
same kind of concept.
Okay, here we go. I'll put you on the spot. Trotter, number one run play that's got to go in. I know you call things different, but
Yeah, I know.
You can describe it.
I hate to be like this because, like, oh, of course you're going to say this. There's got to be counter. I mean, it at the schools that I've coached at all levels in high school, but at the majority of the schools that I'm at, it's the scheme that fits our offensive line the best.
Yeah.
And whether that's with, whether that's with an H-back and doing it that way as like a GH counter, or, we've toyed around with GT at times. Some years I like it better than others. But yeah, it's probably got to be the first one. Although my players will tell you that ISO is my number one, because there was a running joke one year that for 8 games in a row, I started every game off running ISO. So even though I told them we weren't going to run it, we got out there for the first play and I saw what they were aligned in, and I checked it from the sidelines back to ISO on the first play. So they'll tell you that. But yeah, I think counter's got to be the first one for us.
Right.
Install for us, well, in the past it'll be different, but we always installed inside zone first.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the way that we teach our protection scheme, we kind of try and marry the two, I guess would be the best way to put it. So it's made it, in best case, we're able to kind of get the kids to understand what the similarities of the two are as far as how everything works out. But we always have installed inside zone first, then outside zone, then counter, then power read had always been our base power scheme because we were mostly 10 personnel. And then if we wanted to get to any other kind of variation to it, we would just tag it. But that's how we typically used to do it, at least.
Yeah. I guess we install them on the same day, which is power and counter, because plate side same. But I guess for a while we've always done, I guess, power. Right. This year might be different. We'll see. I got the trip. I think we might just install duo first, because it was our best run last year. I mean, we'll see. Or opposite inside zone. So we'll start coin the phrase opposite inside zone. But yeah, duos usually, that was good for us, and probably roll with that. But yeah, power is usually the first one we always would install. Because I guess teaching skip pull was always it's not difficult, but that was easier than going, into installing the trap and the skip at the same time. So we're like, hey, backside hinge and we'll skip pull. And then when you come back around, you've already taught skip pull, so now you're like, all right, so now I just have to teach a trap, which I guess would be the same thing, but either way. But counter's always been that's the counter to something type of mentality, even though counter is my favorite play, but it is what it is. I guess pass pro wise, I'm just going, we're offensive line coach, screw it. Pass pro wise, I've always been a full slide guy until I had darn good tackles, and I'm a half slide guy now. So it was always like, hey, let's quick game and let's run the ball. Now we actually had a quarterback to throw the ball down the field, and I had 2 really good tackles. We're going to half slide this thing. We're going to protect it. So I guess I would say half slide now.
We always did half slide first. And I think, really from like a comfort level and what me and my O-line coach know best, half slide. And we run full slide. We run, dash protection, naked, all that stuff. But we start everything with half slide because I always felt like it's easier to teach full slide. Sure. So I'm going to take more time teaching our half slide stuff. We're going to rep that a lot more because we're going to run it a lot more. But at the same time, I've always felt like it's just so much easier to teach everything else because the way we teach it is just like outside zone for the most part. But yeah, we started to really like full slide and naked and all that stuff this past year. So we'll probably start doing, honestly, probably more than that. So,
I mean, I'll say it's probably pass protection for us really depends upon our quarterback. Most of the years I've been here, our quarterbacks have thrown better on the move out of the pocket. So just to go ahead and get that in, we're doing our sprint out protections early. This year we didn't use a lot of that. So it was more half slide, although there was some full slide. It was primarily half slide for us, which pairs up a lot of times with our ISO play too. So it kind of helps there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for us, I mean, we haven't done as much full slide as I have in the past. It's been more half slide and sprint out protection.
Yeah, I think I would, for us, our H-backs probably should be playing line. Our H-back is the linebacker that just got offered, so that doesn't apply there. But in the past, we've had an H-back that was shoot. He should have been playing guard probably. He's just athletic. We're playing tackle. Right. He's just athletic. So doing full slide, I felt comfortable. And we did this a little bit when I was at North Rowan. We had a protection where instead of having lacing that guy in a sniffer, we would have the running back run a route and he's sitting on the backside. Right. So it's almost like you still have 6 linemen in the game, and now you're still going full slide and he's cutting off the backside C gap.
Right.
And I really like that. If you have a fullback kid that's good blocker that can block ends, that's the big thing about full slide. You don't want your running back on a DN.
Correct.
Right. So I like that. Having a guy that can block a DN, go ahead and just put him right there in a wing, or see if the DN will slide out with him, or just have him in the B gap and have him go cut off like normal, like power. Right. So I like doing that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, some of the full slide that we've done, especially at 11 personnel, and if we're running any of that for you there, Rap, we'll full slide.
It's safe to talk about now.
And put both the H-back and the running back on that DN. Yeah. Especially if he's really good, I'll double team him and slide away from him. Yeah. And now I've got 2 guys that are on him that he's got to try to fight through versus putting him one-on-one with one of my guys. So
yeah,
we full slide. It's not putting a running back on the end by himself, because we can't cut, and that takes away a huge advantage from what guys in other states and other levels can do.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, there was I forget who said it. It might have been a coach from Georgia or Texas, and he was like, "Oh, we'll just cut that." No, it was a coach from Chattahoochee. He was like, he did his pass protection. He was like, "Oh, we'll cut the outside, or let's cut the inside and run them upfield on the outside." I was like, "Well, good for y'all."
Nice, yeah,
yeah. Cutting would be nice, because I would cut on screens. I would cut on pretty much anything.
Right, good. Right.
Yeah,
we started doing a lot more like 7-man protection stuff, because we were able to motion a receipt. Well, a slot guy who could do just about everything. We could motion him in, and he could block and carry the football and all that stuff. So we'd get motion, get to our what we called 20 personnel, 11 personnel, whatever you want to call it, and do a lot of choice and stuff like that off of that. So the way we taught it with the 7-man protection, because I didn't want to have to change anything for the O-line, is we taught the running back. So one on the left has left A gap out, one on the right has right A gap out, because the whole point of trying not to make it confusing and not have to add another quote unquote protection, and also not have to worry about anybody really having questions about what's going to change, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, the 7-man protection stuff was good to us this year, though, for sure.
Yeah, my favorite phrase is same as. Anytime I can say this is same as that,
right?
You're winning, right? Especially offensive line coach, because the kids, as soon as I say that, they're like, "Oh, cool, okay, all right, move on."
Right.
But I'm like on Monday, and I come in after a Sunday meeting, and we're like, "Hey, we're putting this in." And they're all sitting there like, oh, gosh. But I'm like, no, but it's the same as this, right? For us, it's just changing for them, or maybe one guy's changing,
Yeah.
We did that. We run our one back ISO stuff, and then we put in just running two back ISO, right? So now instead of we might switch up a little bit, and now I always teach this is what we're doing, right? The H back's coming with us. So if we're gonna split the hole here, he's gonna lead through here. We got to know that because I don't want my guys to be out there and they think they can win here, and they get in the hole where the H back's trying to go and lead through. That's
right.
So I teach them what's going on. And they're like, why are we calling it something else? Like they think we're winning whatever games. Why are you adding something? It's like you can't say the same, idiot. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's why I was, I explained to my guys everything, and I think the transparency is always good. Sometimes you gotta just leave them in the dark.
Right. That's always a fun part of like, okay, obviously as coaches we talk football, and then trying to find from like when you determine that you're going to do something different or new or whatever the case is, and how you're going to spin that to where it is as simple as possible from the time that you learn it or come up with it or whatever the case is to when you teach it to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's times that I've been like in the middle of drawing stuff on the whiteboard, past concept or whatever, and I'm like, I just stop and I'm like, okay, this would be better.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me doesn't want to go back and start over because now obviously all that time's wasted, but at the same time, kids are going to start getting confused and all that. So it's always a very tough deal. And I think that's honestly why some of our play calls get so wordy or have in the past, because my whole thought process is around not having to change anything for the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody says to keep everything the same for the O-line and just change it for the backfield or whatever. And I've really, really tried to always do that. And, like you said, Tatum, it may change one guy or, whatever. But at the end of the day, if the scheme winds up being the same, but it's somebody else doing it, I don't want to change anything for the five up front. And, that's why we get into so much like tags off a counter, because our base is 10 personnel GT counter. And if we put an H back in the game and we're running GH counter or tackle H back counter or whatever it is, I would rather just tag it than call it something completely different.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, to your point too, like as long as the play side stays the same, in my opinion, really we can teach the one kid who has to change what they got to do and when to know when to do it. So it gets a little crazy, with some of the words, but I mean, like I said, try to always keep everything the same for the O-line and allow them to be able to play fast and physical, and everybody else can kind of figure it out.
Mm-hmm. We and Pearson used to say this a lot. He said if it's an adjustment to a play, tag it. If it's something that you're gonna do a lot, give it a name.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of the philosophy I kind of have, because like running base power had a name. Running power read, we ran a lot of power read. We gave it a name, right? So we literally, it was two different names, but they were very similar, so we knew the difference.
Right.
Like one was watch this. We run Padres was power, Pirates is power read. Has them already power read. But if we were running GT counter, had a name. GH counter had its own name because those were base plays for us. But if we were going bash off of GT, that's a tag, right? It's not a base play for us.
Right.
So we would tag it. So we would go GT with this tag. So that's kind of how we kept that. Like, if it's not something that you think you can call, I don't know, 10, 15 times in the game, don't give it a name, right? That's kind of the philosophy we had with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with it 100%. I mean, like I said, our stuff gets a little crazy. I'm having to say the play call like 5-6 times while my man Coach Burns is signaling it, and I feel bad, but just the way that my mind has always thought, and I think we've talked about it on here before, is like, in order for me to know what's going on, I have to be able to say everything that's going on, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, you know, it gets kind of crazy, but we have like our long play call period of team where I just like start throwing out crazy stuff that we'll probably never call. But at the end of the day, I want to see how well they understand what all this stuff means. And you know, it's always cool to see that click where you're like, dang, I didn't know that we'd be able to do that. So let me go ahead and add it to the script for tomorrow, you know, and start repping it more. But you know, it's cool, especially, you know, being here for a couple of years and having kids who have run our scheme. You know, this group will be all 4 years, you know, and trying to keep terminology the same as much as we can with the stuff that we've done the past couple of years, and being able to see like their knowledge of our scheme start to develop and like stack on top of itself has been a lot of fun over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, you know, talking about the O-line guys, keeping stuff simple for them, because I mean, it's goes back to the old adage. I mean, if you're thinking you're not playing fast,
yeah,
you know, and you're hesitant coming off the ball because you're too worried about what your assignment is. So, you know, I've made it a point, like, we're going to limit it as much as possible. Years ago, I used to have our O-line coach would actually just signal to the O-line what their scheme was, which allowed us to kind of, you could do anything you wanted to do in the backfield. The scheme is probably going to be the same a lot of times. We're just giving it different looks, window dressing, doing different stuff with it. Doesn't change the front five. So they don't need to hear the 6-word play call. They just need to hear the 1-word scheme or direction, right? They don't need to hear all 6 or 7 words of it. So we went away from that, and then we started having the quarterback call it. I'm leaning towards maybe going back and signaling it to him and taking that off the quarterback's plate of having to go up there every play and make sure he's getting the right either protections or run scheme called out, and let him focus more on what his responsibility is supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, it's anything that you can do to make it easier for them up front. And that's why I like with the way we did our run game when we did that video a couple years ago or whatever on it. Man, I tried to make it as simple as possible for them up front, you know, because that way, if I needed to, again, you know, being where I'm at, I mean, I might have 6, maybe 7 guys that I can put on the field. They're also playing both ways. So I need them to, you know, be able to sub in and out if we have to, and to keep things simple. Or this guy hurts and now I got to move my right guard to left tackle and then kick my tackle to center and all those different things. So anything I can do to take it to where they're not thinking as much and they can just play is the better.
That was one thing that we started doing, I think, when we were able to start building more on top of what we did, especially with like our 2-back stuff. And even when we got into the 3-back stuff this year, was, you know, we weren't having to install all of our new stuff with the O-line. They were just able to block, you know, rep blocking against different fronts. We would take all the guys in the backfield and put them on the cans and call plays and go through all that stuff. So that way they're able to rep the new stuff or the tags off a counter or whatever it is. And we're able to focus on them while the O-line doesn't know any different. They're just looking for what I tell them. I tell them to look for the signal for the words that they know. If you've never heard it before, it has nothing to do with you. So, you know, that helped us where we could set up 2 sets of trash cans for our O-line and just roll through stuff, especially at the end of the season, you know, where the kids are really understanding it. You know, and again, if it's something that you've already put in or at least shown them before, you know, it allows you to be able to get a ton of reps with 2, possibly 3 different groups of backfield guys and really rep as many times as you can. I mean, y'all know the more reps you get at it, the more comfortable you'll be calling it on Friday night. So I try to, you know, make sure that we do it in, I guess, that kind of group setting. And then inside run, we'll do it more. And then, you know, we'll rep it more in team. So, But yeah, that helped us a lot to be able to do more with the backfield aspect of all of our run game than what we did before. Because if we started the first year just teaching all that stuff in inside run, and now we're wasting time. We're not getting as many reps because we're having to teach the backfield and the coach the O-line and all that stuff. So that group with the backfield together made it all a lot easier for us to be able to do more, whether it's tags or RPOs or running the trip off the backside of stuff or whatever the case is.
Mhm. I'm glad we kind of got to this because I have a hot take because I've talked to several people and they don't agree. So I think this will be my tweet tomorrow. A hot take is it is easier to do install with the offensive line. And some people are like, oh, no, so you have 5 guys. I don't have to teach motions. I don't have to teach formations. I don't have to teach any of that stuff. I just have to teach my plays.
Yeah.
Right. Now, of course, I get my double team calls and all that stuff, but okay. But all those things overlap.
Yeah.
But when I first got to Walkertown and having to teach all that stuff, right? Formations, where you line up, this, with its trips, what's the spacing, this motion, where do you go from the motion? Where does the play, where you end up? All those things, it's way more. And I know, and then what do we always say? Obviously, keep it simple, keep it the same for the offensive line. So who changes? The skills. Who's got to learn the skill? So yeah, I had some people that are like, oh well, but you got to teach all 5, and you got to make sure they're in sync. Because I really do that every day and twice on Sundays. Then having to do all those, any formations, because that's what they got to learn. They got to learn all that stuff, and on top of the play, they got to know their routes. They got to know the combinations, the concept. They got to know into the run game. Hey, I'm blocking. Hey, no, we're going to RPO this time. All that stuff. So screw the skill guys. Make them learn. Keep the offensive line, easy and ready to go.
I've really never thought of it. What the easiest position group to install stuff with is.
Well, we know the hardest one. That's pretty simple. The quarterback's got to be. But really,
I've coached everything. Running backs, receivers, H-backs, OL, Qs, everything.
Yeah.
You're watching one guy with quarterbacks.
I think receivers is the hardest.
And that's where I was going to go, because many, many years ago, me and our O-line coach, we weren't arguing. We were just jawing back and forth at each other. And I was like, how could you not see that your guy, your left tackle didn't do right? He's like, I got 5 guys to watch. I'm like, yeah, but I've got 4, and they're sideline to sideline.
Right. I was about to say.
You're not be breaking away from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
see all of them without using
peripherals.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Too, and not necessarily if you're converting routes versus different things, but when I first got here, we couldn't run slant routes at the correct depth to save our lives. And I don't know what it was, and I honestly still don't know. But even if it's a mirrored concept, there's times that I'm watching one side, and then I'll hear somebody over here kind of say I don't think that route was right. So then I'm having to go ask them what they ran and all that stuff. I think that honestly, probably coaching receivers, if there's one of you and you're running spread or something where you're running a good amount of concepts or, whatever, it's tough. It's tough to coach that position for sure.
I was with the coach one time. He's like, all right, I want to have outside receivers coach and inside receivers coach. And I'm like, that still doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
You need a left receiver coach and a right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but now I've had 2 O-line coaches for the past 2 years, plus throwing myself in the mix, and overseeing it. So, I mean, we've got 3 different people watching the O-line. And, this past year I had 2 guys watching receivers. So I've tried to make certain that those positions are getting multiple eyes on them, just so that we're not letting stuff fall through. I mean, especially for practice.
Yeah.
Just making sure that everybody has eyes on them. And then game time, there's a lead guy that's the one that's going to be correcting stuff, so we're not getting too many voices. But I want as many eyes on those positions as I can, just because it is hard. I mean, quarterbacks, you're watching one guy. Running backs, depending on your scheme. Now, if you're like a flex bone team and you got 3 guys, then yeah, maybe you need to tweak that, right? But
Sure.
Anytime you're having to watch multiple guys in different areas who are doing different things, you might want to make sure you got a couple sets of eyes on them.
Yeah. I feel like too, as a O-line guy, it's so much easier to see, again, because you can see all of them in like your direct vision. It's easier to see based on where the defense is, what went wrong with the O-line. So you may not have to be looking at like the left tackle steps on the particular play to know whether he didn't get to the 3 technique or whatever the case is. But with all the other positions, again, like being so spread out, especially receivers, there may be stuff happening. You don't have any idea because you're looking at this side and the mess ups on the other side. So it's not easy. I definitely agree with that.
That's why I think it's hard to coach offensive line and call plays. If you're the offensive line coach, you call your plays, but you're trying to focus on everything that's going on. That's where you need somebody to help you. And like I said, like you just said about wide receivers, I mean, if you're trying to call the plays and try to understand what the defense is doing and trying to play a chess match, you can't see 3 to 4 receivers doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, if you have, if the concept is coming, hey, I can see they're in the trips, they're running some type of a concept. You see, hey, the picture doesn't look right. Now you can kind of do that, but you still gotta, I think whatever position that the coordinator is coaching outside of quarterbacks or outside of a one-back offense for running backs, I think whatever position the coordinator is coaching, you need somebody that can help them or somebody that's kind of a backup. It's tough. And even making adjustments, right? If they come off the sideline, you might want to go talk to the quarterback, and now they're over there, standing there, right? Yeah. Unless you coach for teams like we do, and half of your guys go to defense anyway, so you don't get to talk to them anyway.
Yeah, fact. Yep. I mean, that was the thing that was so great about being in the box for those games that I went up there. And I mean, there was a lot of people that like thought that I got in trouble or, because I think the week before that I went up there the first time, I got a 15-yard penalty for saying something to a ref. And I went up in the box and I mean, it was great. I could see everything. I could see the receivers. I could see the protection. I could obviously see the quarterback, all that stuff. And I think there's a lot of people who don't want to be like press box coordinators, which I get, but at the same time, it's so much easier to be able to obviously see what's going on, put your kids in a position to be successful, but to be able to make comments to the coaches, say, hey, can you talk to so-and-so about this? Without having to worry about somebody else being the one to tell you, seeing it firsthand, in my opinion, makes it so much easier to be able to make adjustments on the fly in the middle of the series, honestly.
Funny story. So I think we've talked about this before, but I've never been in the box during a game, like in almost 10 years. And this past fall, during the JV game, Tripp's up there, Douglas is up there, so those are my boys. So I'm like, I'm gonna go up top, just kind of watch the JV game and kind of talk. Took me a drive. Took me one drive, and I was like, can't do it. Bye. I just went down because I saw what was going on, and it's funny. Obviously, like you just said, you can see what's going on. You see the adjustment, but that's that distance. And then you're down there, and you can still kind of see it, but it's not the great vantage point. So now you're kind of like, okay, now you need feedback from the kids. And of course, it's JVs. They're like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. So, but that's hilarious. I was telling them, I was like, hey, I've never been up in the box during a game. And, Tripp was laughing at me, and he was like, all right. And literally, first drive, this kid did the wrong thing. I'm like, hey, tell this kid and then it didn't get communicated, and it happened again. I was like, all right, I'm out. I can't do this. I just left. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, before I went up there, I told, like, in our Sunday meeting, I said, guys, I'm going in the press box. I said, I need y'all to understand that everything that I say, I need you to relay it. Mm-hmm. like no matter what it is, I just need you to relay it because this isn't going to work out if I'm saying stuff and I don't hear y'all saying it to the kids. So my staff did a phenomenal job of relaying everything. But Procom has this thing that you can get. I can't remember what they call it. It's basically like a speaker, and it's a two-way speaker, so the kids can talk to you while you talk to them. I saw it somewhere the other day. I was like, dang, that's not a bad idea. Depending on, I would need like a button, on and off button.
Yeah.
We don't have a track
I'm just
around our
thinking,
field.
can we just go ahead and get that rule like college and everything else now? We just put a little thing in their ear. But I mean, I started off coaching, like being in the box on Friday nights. Like that's where I started off at. So for the longest time, that's where I was comfortable. And as an offensive coordinator early in the career, I was in the box. So I'm at where I'm at now, and it's during COVID, and we're playing a game on a Saturday because the team came from the eastern part of the state to come play us. So we're playing on a Saturday.
On eastern part.
I'm telling you, look, I just made a trip out there. I ain't doing that ever again. That's awful.
The beach?
No, that 4-hour drive to Roanoke Rapids I had to make this year. So I go up to I'm like, you know what, guys? Like, I want to try to go back to the press box and try to call plays because I was just getting frustrated. I was getting mad that Saturday I'm watching film and I wasn't getting relayed the information that I needed to have.
Bingo.
Watching film, and I'm like, God, if I would have only been able to see this because we don't have Huddle Sideline. And, so I don't have a tablet. I mean, at one point I had my wife running up to the top of the stands with my daughter's iPad trying to film it and then running it down to me in between series but it just.
That's love.
Dedication.
That is awesome.
I couldn't do it this time because she had just had our youngest. So she had a newborn in her arm and that wasn't working. So,
I'm talking about rowing the boat in the same direction, man.
No question.
I mean,
whatever.
So I go to the box.
Hopefully you got a dinner for that.
Yeah. I lasted a half. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I'm like, I got to be on the sidelines. And I know this isn't the best reason why, but there are so many times that I tweak stuff on the sidelines for plays.
Yeah.
That, and it's like I said before, it's like there's stuff that we haven't practiced before that I've ran because it fits within the concept of the play. I can just move a piece here and there.
Right.
Can't do from the press box because now I'm having to have somebody else explain it and try to do that.
Yeah.
Now, the next season, I was calling plays from the couch when I had COVID, and I'm watching it on the live stream. But that's a whole another story. So,
yeah, I told him, I said, look, I need the quarterback after every drive, and when we started running like the dagger stuff, that was in the middle of a game, and I was like, okay, he's got the dig, he's got the seam, talk to him. And there was times that I'd have like quarterback and 2 receivers on the headset. But it just, to me, like I've never felt like I've ever been able to get the information that I needed. And it's not because of it's not to the fault of any of the coaches I've had up there in the grand scheme of things. It's just them not knowing exactly what I want to know. And it may change from play to play. So that part of it has been frustrating too. Is like, if only I would have known this during this game, then we probably would have scored 150 points. Like, it's always tough to like look back and see that. So really the point where I was like, man, I really miss being on the sideline was, I can't remember who we were playing, but our quarterback was just absolutely balling. I think he threw for like 400 that game. And we went and he rolled out and scrambled and threw like a post route for a touchdown across his body and got absolutely obliterated when he let go of the ball. And he like jumped up and was hitting his chest and stuff. And I was just like, tack on, man. I would really just love to be able to like go chest bump him or something like that. And I was like, you know what? We're playing well. I got to stay up here. Like, it's helping us. So I did, but I was just like, man, I would love to just like go yell on the sideline one time. That's it. That's it.
Talking about just the press box person. I mean, I think back to this one game where, the guy I've got, he's been up there a lot, and we've kind of got a good system where there's certain things that I have him looking for and all. But, probably the best, and it was funny because my quarterback coach even said something after the game because he was on the headsets listening. The guy that I had worked with underneath him, he was the head coach, and I'd worked with him for 8 years, and he was also my high school coach that I played for. He came one game and went up into the box for me. And my quarterback coach afterwards was like, he goes, I don't understand how, he said, you guys were literally finishing each other's sentences. He could say like 3 words and you were already knowing where he was going with it. And I'm like, it's just all those years that we spent working together in the Saturdays on the whiteboards, putting offenses together, calling games. When I first became a JV OC, he was in the box helping me. I was on Friday nights helping him. So, 2 nights a week we're communicating, and I take over as the OC. And so, there's all that time that went into it. But he sat back, he's like, I've never heard 2 coaches on the headsets be able to communicate without having to say hardly any words to each other, just because y'all have been together for so long.
Yeah.
So if you can find, that's where you got to, but it takes time, and it takes a lot of just back and forth and trust.
Yeah.
Rap, obviously Trotter, he's talked about his story where wasn't at the game, right? Do you have similar, because I have one, do you have a similar situation where you've had to miss a game, whether as a head coach or an assistant, and you kind of had to watch the game from the couch or not be there?
No, I've never had to do that. I never had to. And I guess I've just been lucky in that way. Yeah, I can't imagine like what that would feel like, especially if we lost or something like that. I don't know what I would have done. There was
games because of it. And this was the fall of what, 21.
Yeah, fall 21.
Uh-huh.
So when everything, everybody was still getting hit with COVID, and it was the 7 days and all that stuff. And so I ended up having to miss. What made it worse was we had one game that we had to push back because of COVID on the team. So then we had a Friday game, a Tuesday game, and a Friday game.
Goodness gracious.
Right. So I couldn't coach. I found out on Thursday that I had COVID, and we had already had all the contingency plans. Okay, if this coach has something happen, then this is what we do. We already had it all figured out.
Right.
So I tried to get my administration to agree to let me go to the end zone end of the field behind the scoreboard and run me up in a scissor lift with the headsets on so I could call the game, but they wouldn't let me do it because I wasn't allowed to. I'm outside the fenced area.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. So one game I had to watch on NFHS because that was an away game. So I actually had to get NFHS so I could watch it. And then the other game was a home game, and we live streamed on YouTube. There was a little bit of a delay. So I'm on my couch texting my quarterback coach who's filling in for me, hey, this is can you run this? And he's like, I've never heard, don't just tell them, they'll know it, to try to get us to it was awful. Man. We went 1-1. The one game we lost, we probably still would have lost if I'd have been there. I wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but may have been a hair closer because there were some things I would have done differently, but we did the best we could in the situation. But yeah, it was hope you never have to do that because it's awful.
Yeah, that was my biggest fear every day, like during the whole COVID seasons, the spring and the fall, was not being able to be there for practice, games, anything. And not that I didn't like trust the coaching staff and stuff like that, but you almost kind of feel helpless, I guess would be the word, where you're just like, you're never going to be able to get the information that you need to get quick enough in real time during the game, no matter where you're at watching it. And Yeah, I couldn't imagine that.
My game that I missed, I was just an O-line coach, and I was out for COVID, and I remember watching same deal, watching on NFHS, and I had Loudon on Twitter and was like, "Does anybody have NFHS?" And like, has a couple of dudes that DM me, so I could just watch it, and yeah, it was the craziest. Like our wide receiver set the county record receiving, and it was like almost 300 some yards receiving, and it was insane. But and so it was literally like nothing they did would work, especially run game, and that's what ate me up. Like I couldn't help, I couldn't make adjustments, couldn't communicate to the guys. But lo and behold, shout out to Martin MacArthur, damn near 300 and some yards. So
Pass pro must have been good that night.
Do what?
I said pass pro must have been good that night.
I guess like it was like they could not tackle that kid. So, but yeah, like it'll eat you up the whole time. And I'm just like I'm texting people and I'm checking other scores. I mean, I'm at the house. I'm checking other scores and the people I know, and yeah, it's absolutely awful. Let's podcast is getting a little long. I'm gonna hit up Coach Garcia's question real quick. So, how many formations do you carry? Okay, we're gonna let Trotter go first, since he's a little more.
My answer would probably be a lot faster.
Well, we can go with yours, and then we'll let Trotter go.
We got a video on this one.
True. And do you feel formations are more expensive than people think?
I don't. Okay. I really don't, because, and I know everybody's gonna say, well, look, you're literally moving from one spot to another. It's not that difficult. The number of formations we carry, it depends on the year and how the offense is organized that year. This year we didn't run as many different personnel groups or formations than we did 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there were weeks that we were running, I think, 9 different personnel groupings, and I think there was a week that we had literally, I think we lined up in 19 or 20 different formations, and that's not counting left or right or a back lining up on a different side, out of all of those formations, out of those personnel groups. So I'm a firm believer in the more that, and this is why it goes back to keeping stuff simple for the offensive line, because all this ties together. I can move all these different pieces around the chessboard, so to speak, and put you in different spots and, force the defense to have to play a very simple, basic defense, because they don't know how we're going to line up. They don't know what our personnel groups are going to be. We can change them out quick. We don't have to wait on the defense to match our substitutions. So we can line up in a lot of different ways, all right, and stress defenses, that way, but still run our same base plays. I can still run counter. I can still run powder. I can still run duo. I can still run our pass games. All right. But hold on a second.
Did Trotter just say duo?
He did. I heard that. You heard it too.
Trotter, let her.
He probably was calling it Veer or something.
Well, we call it other stuff, and I was informed that it's duo by certain people at a clinic and on here too. That we're running duo, even though I never would admit that it was duo. But yeah,
you can't take it back. It's in the world forever now.
Yeah, it's out there now that I run duo. Yeah, I will admit that I ran. I'm trying to shut that door. My little one keeps coming in. But we can run all of that stuff out of all the different formations and personnel groups that we have. But to the defense, it looks entirely different, right? So the more that you can do that, the better. Now, can you come in year one in offense and do that? Probably not. Right. If you're taking over, or you're changing stuff, or you're going somewhere new, you're probably not going to be able to run 9 different personnel groups and 20 different formations in a game. Okay, but I don't think sitting in. And again, I used to be a true spread 10 personnel 100% of the time guy. I'm not that anymore. But sitting in 2x2 and 3x1, you let the defense kind of dictate to you what's going to happen versus you dictating to them by putting them in stressful situations of having to get aligned properly.
Yeah. So yeah, I was listening to the Board Drill podcast, which is a great podcast.
Yeah, it is.
And they had my boy Alex Harrell. Well, they didn't have him on the head as head coach, but Alex Harrell, who's at Rockbridge in Missouri, they do great stuff. They run what they call the empty, pretty much the empty wing tee. I guess whatever you want to call it. But they were talking about how they get into so many formations, but they number each part of the field, each with alignment, different numbers. And if your kids can master that, you can put anybody anywhere. So they literally have their base formations, and then they can tag a kid to get anywhere on the field. So they do that by get multiple. So yeah, I don't think that it's that expensive, especially if you teach it in like rap. Like you said, it's a whole new language. Once they master the language, now you can speak fluently and move around. But I know you have a little bit of a different view. So go ahead.
Yeah, my thought process was always the opposite. And obviously talking to y'all, it's changed, but I always wanted to be able to know where everybody was going to be. And really when it started to change was when we started to shift in motion more. When I first started at Perquimans in 17, when I was here the first time, literally all we lined up in was 2-back, some very little, and 3x1 and 2x2, and that was it. But I felt like we were able to, I knew how teams were going to line up to it. So I felt a lot more comfortable calling plays, knowing that when we lined up in 2x2, that I knew where everybody on the defense was going to be, and we could take advantage of space and stuff like that. But we're shifting towards more of formations and tagging formations in order to move different people around, to get playmakers the ball, really, to take advantage of matchups and all that stuff. So, I think it's kind of like anything new. Anytime you start doing anything new, you have to learn it. You have to feel comfortable with it, and teach it to the kids so that they understand it enough and how their responsibility may change. But that was my biggest concern, was like, okay, obviously we teach rules on everything. And I guess that's probably why gap scheme is a lot easier teaching in a bunch of different formations, because the rules are always the same no matter what. I was, especially early on, I was heavy inside zone. Like that was our deal. And I always thought, like, man, if we put a tight end, like a true inline tight end in, I'm going to now have to teach him how to block inside zone with the O-line, and it's just going to take a lot more time than what we have. So, we started looking at doing a lot more, and we did more as far as moving people around, but kind of calling it the same thing last year. And I think that was kind of when we were at our best, when we were able to, flip receivers from the slot to outside and things like that. But, for the most part, I was never in the thought process of we need a bunch of different formations. I was always, if we line up in doubles, yes, they may be able to tee off, but we'll be able to know where everybody's going to be. And I think that limited what we wound up being able to do a lot, because, once we lined up in, again, I'll use doubles as an example, and we saw how the defense lined up, we automatically had to scratch off, 5, 6, 7 plays off our call sheet, and just weren't able to call them. So, we started to do more as far as like bunch sets and stuff like that last year, but we'll get into more moving guys around to different, locations on the field than really I've ever done.
Anything you want to follow up with that, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, just again, style of offense and stuff is always going to dictate that. But I think with when you're into personnel, there's only so many ways you can align receivers.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of been just my change as a coach. I mean, I came up as a pro eye under center triple option guy that then kind of slowly went into the spread world. And now I'm kind of coming back to my roots a little bit. When there's only so many ways that you can align, it allows the defense to have a little bit more flexibility and to give you more looks. So yeah, hey, if I know that if I'm in this, they're probably going to do this, but it still opens up them being able to pull out the bag of tricks to bring different pressures and different coverages and different looks against you because they're not worried about being misaligned.
Yeah.
And giving stuff up because there's only so many ways that you can align when you have 4 wide receivers on the field.
Right.
But when you start bringing in tight ends, H-backs, multiple running backs, extra offensive linemen.
Unbalanced.
What's that?
Unbalanced.
Yeah, getting unbalanced. Yeah, putting, tight end weak, bringing the tackle over, covering up receivers, doing different stuff like that. Then now, because I can tell you how many times I've gone and covered up a receiver and they've still walked somebody out there to guard him because this kid's 15 years old and it's the third quarter and he's tired and he sees a receiver out here. I'm going to go line up and cover him.
Yeah.
So you can dictate stuff a lot more. And it just, but it goes back to, if you got simple rules for everything for your guys, then you can definitely use it to your advantage. But I mean, for a long time, I was that way to where it's like, hey, I want to know if I'm in 2x2 and I watch 3 game films, I'm going to have an idea of where they're at and I'm going to know how I'm going to attack it. But then come Friday night, they're doing something that we weren't prepared for. And I have less ways to encounter it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, coaches, I have question of the week. Kind of break it down here. And we might have touched on one of these. I just asked my wife. She was like, ask him this. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm going to put it across the ticker. Basically, what's your favorite movie and TV show? And then what's your favorite band / artist and song? And kind of give you a moment to think about it. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to do movie and TV show, and then I'm going to do like a band, artist, song. I listen to too much music in order to do that one. But I guess favorite show, that's really tough too. But I mean, because I have different phases that I watch shows in.
Yeah, me too.
I love Game of Thrones. Love the new series. Love Doctor Who. Some people know what Doctor Who is. Yeah, Ted Lasso is probably my more recent love. I love Ted Lasso.
Everybody's been telling me about that, but I don't have whatever that's on.
Yeah, it's on Apple TV. I aspire to be as funny and as positive as Ted Lasso. His one-liners are great.
I saw a video of that show. I've seen a couple now. Yeah. The one where he's like throwing darts against
I love it.
And then the one where like he's like a American football coach going to coach soccer.
Yes.
I've seen those, but I haven't seen like a whole episode or anything like that. Yeah. And I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really good. Movie, Remember the Titans, my favorite movie of all time. Used to watch it before every game. I don't do it as much now, but at least try to do it once a season. But song, his favorite band, I don't know. This band is crazy. Artist, it's a new group. I mean, it would be Luke Combs or I'll throw it to hip hop. Love the Migos. But song that changes throughout the seasons.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Rap?
Movie, I love, and my wife hates it, but I love the National Treasure movies.
I'm a history guy. I love it.
Absolutely love them. Like if those are on TV, we're watching them.
Yeah.
And my wife can't stay. I don't know why she don't like it. It's the greatest movies of all time. But yeah, any of those, both of them, I'll watch them. They've been saying for like 3 years now that they're coming out with a third one. I'm still waiting. I don't like going to the movie theater. because I can't like pause the movie and go to the bathroom or whatever.
Mhm.
But I will go see that in the movie theater if it ever comes out. Fingers crossed it does. But show, I'd probably go Friday Night Lights, like that series. Absolutely love it. Would always watch it anytime it's on or whatever. I used to watch it every like summer going into the season.
Mhm.
And I mean, honestly, like the way that I try and get the quarterbacks to understand is like how Eric Taylor treated Matt Saracen. Like that's what I wanted to be like.
I like the show better than the movie, and I know the movie's classic. I know the movie.
I don't love the movie,
but they lost. Spoiler alert: they lose.
Yeah.
Ruby Miles, that whole emotion, like because
Did y'all read the book?
I did read the book.
Okay. Yeah.
The book is better than the movie, in my opinion.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and I've read all the Harry Potters, and so yeah, I know the books are better, but yeah,
I had to
know.
make a deal with my wife to watch the whole Friday Night Lights series that I would watch every Harry Potter movie, and
I
she
watched the
did.
Harry Potters with my daughter. She loves them.
She watched all the Friday Night Lights, and I watched all the Harry Potters, and they weren't as bad as like I thought they would be.
Yeah.
But I'm just not really into like the whole like sci-fi. And I don't know if Harry Potter's considered that, but that's not really my
It's fantasy, so yeah, it goes in that kind of category.
I'd either go that or I love Big Bang Theory too. That show is absolutely hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Those are probably my two favorite. And then I don't know if I can do a song, band or artist. I'd probably go Luke Combs just because like there's not a song that he has that like will play on my phone in my truck or whatever that I'm skipping it.
Yeah.
He puts on a phenomenal show. I'd probably go him and Eric Church are like my two favorite artists. But I don't know if I can pick a favorite song because it's literally like it changes all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Coach.
All right. So let's see.
Tyler's favorite movie is going to be Braveheart.
No, it's not. It's up there. It's in the top 5. It's Shawshank Redemption.
That's a good one.
But
long, but it's a good one.
Yeah, Django's good. I like that movie too.
My absolute number one, I'll watch it. I don't care how many times, and I can literally quote every Doc Holliday scene in the entire.
I already knew what you were saying. Yep.
Was Tombstone. Yeah. And then, I mean, it is, and like I wouldn't say when it first came out when I was a kid, so that was a long time ago. But that is my absolute favorite movie. Val Kilmer is amazing as Doc Holliday in that.
Yeah.
TV show? I don't know. I mean, for a long time, I would have said Sopranos. I don't like comedy stuff. My wife thinks I'm weird because I don't like any. She's shaking her head through the window. She just got, I don't like any Will Ferrell. I think is absolutely horrible. I can't tolerate it. I don't. That's not me. Music. So, looking at me, you would assume certain things. But
jazz,
yeah. Like I pulled up my Pandora stuff here just to kind of go through the channels and stuff. It was like Tyler Childers, Kid Rock, Whiskey Myers, Limp Bizkit, Billy Strings, Ralph's. It goes from Ralph Stanley to DMX.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we have basically the entire gamut of music. And I guess that's part of my little bit older generation than y'all. Of growing up with some stuff, but yeah, it's during the season it really depends. I mean, it's all about what mood I'm in for that week, but a lot of times it's just trying to calm myself down in pregame after I've downed 2 monsters and a yellow jacket I used to and all that other stuff, trying to calm me back down. But I don't TV shows, I don't know right now. We kind of binging some stuff on Netflix for a little bit.
Yeah. You mentioned Sopranos. The Sopranos intro is still one of the hardest intros.
By far.
For a show. And I love when Shane Beamer did that. Have you seen them? They recorded around Columbia, and like they were a part of the Sopranos.
Yeah.
That was and I haven't finished the Sopranos. I know how it ends. I've seen
awful.
it. Yeah, awful. I I mean, most long-running shows have awful endings.
Yeah.
Sopranos,
that is true.
Lost,
Lost
Game of-
ending. I was
Game-
about to say
Game of
that.
Thrones, all those type of shows, and it's. I think they just went too long. They ran out of things to talk about and stories to tell, and
There was
they
so
couldn't
many
end it.
things that never got like resolved with Lost. That
The-
never.
It's
Yeah.
like they ran out of money,
Yeah,
and they were like, "All right,
They
it's
just got
over."
bored.
It was the worst ending to a show I've ever watched.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah, my wife and I, we play a game where on my app we have Apple Music, and so I'll do my station, and we'll go on a road trip, and like we'll try to count how many different genres we'll jump back and forth from, because I have music from anything, but it might be like one song from this random genre.
Yeah.
We'll go. We'll do it, and it'll tell you, especially with them, it'll tell you like, "Hey, this is under this genre," and be like, "All right, that's new." So, yeah, I can't stay with one. And she's like, "Just pick one. Let's like stay with country. Stay with country.
Mhm.
Go with hip hop. Stay with hip hop." Like, nah, I like the ebb and flows and the ups and downs of the music. Kind of keeps me going. Ozark,
Ozark was a good
Honey
show.
was a great movie,
yeah, Good Will Hunting. How you like them apples?
which made me think of another one of my favorite movies, which is Rounders.
Yeah, Rounders is good.
I never seen
Partially
that.
because it's all about them playing. It's Texas Hold'em playing cards because
Uh-huh.
I kind of funded myself through a year of college doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a like genre country, but I mean, there's music that I tolerate. Like, I'm not like telling them to turn it off kind of thing. Like when we're in the weight room or whatever.
Oh, I am. Trust me. If I can,
Oh.
I
I love hip hop. Okay, I love hip hop, but now, and I'm not trying to be the old guy, but nowadays,
That's bad.
golly, like I listen to. I would say I tell them my era of hip hop is 2000 to 2018. That anything in there, I'm good. Right, that's me growing up through college.
Yeah.
Now, here and there, but no.
I love Jay-Z. I will say that. Saw him in concert back in the day, but yeah.
see mine for that would be like 93 through. God, y'all weren't even born yet. 93.
I was 1 in 93.
I was
Just-
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
93 through like early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I embarrassed the crap out of my daughter when something will come on and she's like, I can't believe you know this.
Yeah, but I haven't.
I like Raw
acquired
Wave
taste
a
of-
lot. I will say that.
You like
Raw Wave's good.
Raw Wave is good.
He don't cuss much.
Yeah, but I have an acquired taste when it comes to movies because the longest time my dad is just an '80s like fiend, and like we would just watch every movie ever made. But when it came to that, and so I have a wide range of movie knowledge, and we quote movies like we're talking, like we're just wrong with my dad and my brother. So yeah,
Yeah.
love movies.
I would always rather watch a show than a movie, personally.
I think you said that before.
Yeah.
It's more investment. But the thing is, and my wife's the same way. She really watched the show. I'm like, babe, we just watched 3 episodes. We're gonna watch the movie. She's like, yeah, but it's three different plots. Like we're like, we love NCIS. We're watching NCIS New Orleans again.
Oh, that's good.
And so like we're like watched 3 of those or 4 of those, and now she's like, well, we could have watched the movie. She's like, yeah, but that's 4 different crimes we just watched. I'm like, I guess so.
It's true.
So-
I like Blacklist a lot too. I don't know if y'all watch that. That's
Yeah,
a
Yeah,
good,
my brother likes Blacklist. Yeah,
it's a good show.
yeah.
Suits wasn't bad.
Nah, Seuss was good.
It got kind of like redundant, but yeah, I had to like pause Blacklist during football season last year. I was like 4 or 5 seasons in, and then football season started, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with this." So I just stopped it completely, and then picked it back up after.
Yeah. All right, guys. My wife just texted me, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I was gonna make a pun, but I'm not going to anymore. Let's wrap it up anyway.
Hey.
Anyway,
Depends on what you mean. Well,
yeah, I know, right? Anyway, Coach Schroeder, any last couple words before we let the folks go today?
Oh man, put me on the spot. No, I mean it's this time of year. make sure that you're still putting in work, still learning, going out there doing stuff. It's clinic season in a lot of places still, so make sure you're still getting out there doing those. Don't be the one who just gets complacent because this is what I do and I don't want to learn anything else, because I can't tell you how many times I've picked up one little thing trying to learn a different scheme that I've been able to impart and put into what we're doing that's made a huge difference. So, never quit going out there to those clinics and having those conversations with coaches, because you never know where that's going to lead to. Literally us sitting here right now, stemming from that a year ago.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Rap, what you got?
Keep learning. It's that time of year. Trotter basically said everything I was going to say. So appreciate y'all hanging out. Enjoyed it. Always do.
Do it for kids, man.
Oh, yeah. Forgot. Yeah. Keep learning. Keep doing it for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. Not to be, an echo chamber, but yeah, like I love clinic season. We talked about that last time. Love clinic season. Love getting to talk and love to meet new people to do that. But more importantly, do it for the right reasons. Coach for the kids. Love on them. Coach them hard, but love on a little bit. Mentor them a little bit. Last two things I'm gonna say. Remember, run the ball and don't block corners. All right, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Next week, Thursday, 7:30.